All right, folks, it is June 13th, and we got the emails. Folks, it's been a long time coming. We are finally here, and if you had any doubts about our government being corrupt as hell, we are going to put all those doubts to rest in this video right here, folks. This is borderline treason. I mean, it's just Brad Garlinghouse, in his own words, says deplorable and 100% bad faith what the SEC has done here. We've completely exposed it all, and I'm going to give you guys my thoughts here at the end of this session. Let's get right on into it, though, folks. This is absolutely massive. The SEC is completely exposed, and without a doubt, Ripple's victory is imminent. Now, I'm going to share my thoughts with you guys on how I think that Ripple should handle this. But once again, this is incredible. And by the way, you guys were supposed to wake me up. I wake up here about 6 o'clock here on the West Coast, and everybody's already got the documents. They're already going through it, sharing all this info on Twitter. You guys were supposed to call me and wake me up if it was dropping early. No, but I wake up here and I see that everyone's already lighting it up. So I had to get my ducks in a row and get ready to put a show here together for you guys this morning. I appreciate everyone for coming on in. 26,000 for your Bitcoin, 1737 for your Ethereum, and XRP back down to 52 cents. But I'm going to show you guys what happened on the sticks right here. The lead up to the emails. This is when they dropped 15-minute chart right here. We're way zoomed in on the 15-minute. You guys can see right about 4 o'clock West Coast time, we started to see a run up. This is right when the documents were getting dropped, and we went all the way up to 56 cents. So pretty nice little pump for XRP. We are back down to 52 cents. We will see where this thing consolidates, but a little bit of excitement in the markets this morning. But let's get right on into it, folks. This is going to be a massive one. As we get the response here from Brad Garlinghouse himself, he says it's absolutely unconscionable that a regulator, when presented with so much pushback on what he was about to say, how he compiled this fake test in the first place, decided to move forward anyway and throw an entire industry into chaos. For the SEC to sue Chris Larson and me personally for allegedly selling unregistered securities when their own division head deliberately created confusion about this, well, I don't have a single polite word to describe this deplorable, politically motivated overreach. Seeing the depth to which the SEC has essentially weaponized the lack of regulatory clarity through enforcement action since this speech was given, it's no surprise that we can all call bluff on their claims to just come in and register as nothing but in bad faith. Well said by Mr. Brad Garlinghouse. And we're going to play this clip here from Stuart Alderati putting together this little summary, a few minutes long here. This gives you guys the full rundown. I'm going to play this clip for you guys. This is well put together.
Security. On June 14, 2018, then SEC Director of Corporation Finance William Hinman gave a high-profile speech where he declared that a token is not a security when it becomes, quote, sufficiently decentralized. But internal emails and documents show that senior SEC officials repeatedly warned Hinman that his speech wasn't true to the law and would greatly confuse the markets even more than they already were. Now, after more than 2 years and 7 court orders, we can finally share some of what we found in the Hinman speech documents. The SEC head of trading and markets warned Hinman that he was making up factors that, quote, go beyond the typical Howey analysis, as in not in the law, and that the speech could lead to not just confusion, but greater confusion on what is a security. Hinman ignored him.
If the network on which the token or coin is to function is sufficiently decentralized, and the purchasers no longer have a reasonable expectation that a person or a group is going to carry out essential managerial or entrepreneurial efforts, those assets might not represent an investment contract.
The same official told Hinman he should tie his speech, quote, more closely and explicitly to the Howey analysis. Hinman not only ignored him, but deliberately created factors beyond those identified by the Supreme Court in the Howey case.
I wanted to just note a few things. This list is not meant to be exhaustive, but these are things that we look at.
The SEC's own general counsel warned specifically that it's legally irrelevant if someone retains a stake in a token and is motivated to take action to increase its value, and that Hinman should delete it from the speech. And once again, Hinman ignored them and said without any legal support that it was important to ask.
Has that person or group retained a stake or other interest in the digital asset such that it would be motivated to expend efforts to cause an increase in the value of the digital asset?
Both Trading and Markets and the General Counsel also disagreed with Hinman's belief that if a network was sufficiently decentralized, information asymmetries would no longer exist. noting that a network creator would likely have more information than a retail holder, using Vitalik Buterin as an example. They warned Hinman that by creating this, quote, other category and focusing on information asymmetries, he was exposing a regulatory gap that the SEC may not have the jurisdiction to fill. Again, Hinman ignored them.
As the network becomes more truly decentralized, the ability to even to identify a promoter or to make the requisite, and someone that could actually make the requisite disclosures becomes in many cases difficult or and perhaps much less meaningful.
On June 4th, Hinman wrote that he didn't see a, quote, need to regulate Ether as a security, and set up a call with Ethereum's co-founder Vitalik Buterin later that week to, quote, confirm our understanding. On June 11th, the SEC's own general counsel advised against including any direct statement about Ether in the speech because it would be difficult for the SEC to, quote, take a different position on Ether in the future. The next day, Trading and Markets wrote that the statements about Ether were, quote, likely to create more confusion. Hinman ignored all of them and decided to make headlines, picking winners and losers instead.
Moreover, putting aside the fundraising that accompanied the creation of Ether, based on my understanding of the present state of Ether, the Ethereum network, its decentralized structure, we believe current offers and sales of Ether are not securities transactions.
The emails show that Hinman knew he wasn't following the law. He knew he was making things up, and he knew that his speech would result in greater confusion in an already confused market. But Hinman went ahead with the speech anyway, and the SEC, despite knowing all this, touted the speech repeatedly. The SEC chairman himself pointed market participants to the speech.
Bill Hinman recently outlined the approach we take to evaluate whether a digital asset is a security, and I encourage you to take a look at Bill's speech, which is available on our website.
The SEC knew the speech didn't follow the law. The SEC knew the speech would create greater confusion, and the SEC knew Hinman was making things up. So why is the Hinman speech still on the SEC's website? Why was it ever allowed to be given at all? And why has the SEC pushed a policy of regulation by enforcement, falsely insisting the rules are clear?
Well, I'll answer that question. I'll answer why. It's because these guys are corrupt as hell. And I would say that it's actually borderline treason if we actually got to see the full truth of the extent that this goes. When you look at Vitalik Buterin being a puppet, essentially, of the Russian government in many ways, you got to look at the involvement in basically propping up a foreign entity against the United States and then going out and attacking our own people, right? That's treason, okay? And these guys are corrupt as hell, and they had to line their pockets. The reason why they did this is because to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, Bill Hinman personally lined his pockets along with all the other money that was made. And so, I mean, hundreds of millions and maybe even billions of dollars was on the line here that these guys were able to reap the benefits from this speech that they know didn't have any standing. They knew that they were extending, and they even talk about the gaps in the regulatory law, how it didn't apply to the Howey test. But Hinman insisted. He refused to listen to his colleagues, and he continued to push through. And it is corrupt as hell. Now, Rafa Kahneman shares this with us. We see good news for the secondary XRP market. The SEC General Counsel emails proposed changes in assessing if crypto is an investment contract, that in Howey, purchasing land was only a security if a service contract was part of it, i.e. not the property itself. So as we've been covering, as we've been saying, when any asset is tied up in an investment contracts, you can create a security. You can create a security out of anything, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the underlying asset is a security itself. It's the investment contract that asset was sold within. So if you own a property, it's not a security, but you can package up that property as a security. Same thing with oil, same thing with every other commodity, same thing with gold, same thing with XRP, right? So what we see here is it says only the purchase of land and service contract was the purchase of a security. Those who bought land only had not purchased a security, right? So if me and you have only purchased XRP with no investment contract, we did not purchase a security. And Bill Morgan shares this. This is the documents right here. And he says, this one passage now unredacted to show the missing words. How is fair notice defense looking now? And let's read this. So it says, Contemporaneous SEC communications suggest that the SEC's own officials were well aware that the speech would lead to greater confusion and deliberately recommend giving industry participants less detail, presumably to give the agency more room to maneuver. So, folks, I really think, the fair notice defense is what's getting helped out the most by this. Right, because Ripple already had the facts and circumstances around their case. It was very solid, doesn't apply to the security, maybe some of the early sales, maybe some of the early contracts, some of the option deals that they gave to some of these investors who were all accredited investors or institutions. But nonetheless, what this comes in and does with these Hinman emails today is I think that it strengthens that fair notice defense even further, which if Ripple was going to want to go to the distance and use that fair notice defense, this is all the more ammo for them to do so. Now, we continue here. Bill Morgan shares this. This is the footnote for that passage. Hinman's new test went beyond the typical Howey analysis. Yes, why would he do that? So, as they're saying that right here, because Hinman's new test goes beyond the typical Howey analysis, right? But then here's the big one. Here's the big one right here, folks. Here is the first of two extracts covering a passage in the Rule 56.1 statement. There was some internal debate about whether to include Ether. No problem. Let's just call Buterin for an unbiased opinion on how Ethereum works. We will just treat what he says. And you see right here that they literally ended up calling Vitalik Buterin. Folks, check this out. So it says right here, I'll go right from the top. For example, on May 31st, 2018, after Ether's initial inclusion in the draft, alongside Bitcoin as examples of digital assets that no longer were securities, drew opposition from within the SEC, Hinman inserted an alternative to the proposed Ether language, which could be used on Ether if we need to hedge the issue a bit at the time of the speech. On June, so he was insisting on including Ethereum in the speech. Why? On June 4th, Hinman shared a draft of the speech with SEC division heads and wrote that the proposed language about Ether is in brackets and would be used if we are all in agreement. And adding, quote, "We also have a call with Buterin later this week to confirm our understanding of how the Ethereum Foundation operates." So they're still trying to figure out how Ethereum operates. They don't even know, but let's just call up Vitalik Buterin and, let him explain to us how it works, right? Before we drop this speech, adding way more confusion to this space and giving Ethereum the free pass green light. And Digital Asset Investor shares this. Never forget. Now we know why Vitalik was on the phone with Hinman before the Ethereum free pass speech. December 21st, 2020. And this is Vitalik's little comments here. Remember this one? Looks like Ripple XRP team is sinking to a new level of strangeness. They're claiming that their shitcoin should not be called a security for public policy reasons, namely because Bitcoin and Ethereum are Chinese controlled, which was a fact. It was a fact at the time. Most of the mining for Bitcoin and Ethereum, over 60%, was done in China at the time. So that was a true statement. The Ripple just doesn't just throw stuff out like that. So like I said, I think that this is actually borderline on treason because you're propping up a foreign entity, giving them an advantage in our markets, in a financial currency war that we're now seeing play out in real time. This whole thing goes much deeper than just the little XRP story, right? And so what you see is it's much further than just lining our pockets, giving foreign entities like Vitalik Buterin and the Ethereum Foundation that free pass and that gain, right? Truly incredible. Now, this comes out at a time here where we have the new hearing that's going to be taking place in the Financial Services Committee today. So I am expecting either Patrick McHenry, one of the good guys there in Congress, to bring this up, right? It is their duty. The whole session is about clarity for digital assets. They need to bring this up because this is damning evidence that everyone should be addressing. We need an inspector general investigation into Hinman and how this whole thing went out. And honestly, if I had to pick my way right now, I don't care if we have to be stagnant, if we get no price action for the rest of the year because Ripple fights this case tooth and nail till the death. Because they have this case, it's corrupt as hell, and there's no reason why they should settle and cut them any check. I understand why they would, and as I've long said, I do think that a settlement will happen. This doesn't really change my mind about that because I think that you have the time cost of money to evaluate there as well, the time value of money. And Ripple, I think, just wants to be able to move ahead. But what they have here is just the smoking gun for their fair notice defense, right? When their own SEC that was tasked with this is talking about the internal confusion, the gaps in the regulatory analysis, not meeting the prongs of the Howey analysis, basically extending their jurisdiction for where it does not belong. And then the fact that he was told by multiple people not to include it, and he insisted, oh, here's an alternative. We'll put it into brackets and see at the time of the speech if it's necessary. Why was he so insistent? It's because these guys are bought and paid for, and this is why Warren Davidson's bill that he just introduced to regulate the SEC and fire Gary Gensler is a great start. But until the Republicans actually get something done, I'm tired of hearing the talk. I'm tired of the tough talk, okay? Everybody can run their mouth. Let's actually get something done. Let's actually bring this up in the hearing today. Let's acknowledge what happened here. Let's start to bring some people in to testify in front of Congress. And folks in the XRP community, God bless you guys, okay? So it starts off with digital asset investor, Digital Perspective, Brad Kimes, the leaders in the space that started out investigating this whole thing and who were relentless, along with all the Twitter sleuths, along with you in the audience here today, by applying pressure, by continuing to research and dig, by sharing this message far and wide. We have won the court of public opinion. Now, what's going to take place in the courtroom with Ripple SEC? I don't know, whether this case is going to settle up, whether Ripple is going to decide to fight it to the end. We'll see. I will say that as an American, I want to see them fight this all the way now, and I want to see them, we got to investigate this further. This is absolute criminal corruption at the highest levels of an agency that is tasked with providing a level playing field, with protecting investors. And the damages are massive, right? This evidence is damning, and the damages are massive. Not only are we going to be able to see here how much they gained from this Ethereum free pass speech, how much they took in from taking their law jobs at other law firms that were representing consensus in Ethereum. And you guys understand the whole story. There's tens of millions of dollars that these guys line their pockets with. But I've made the case over here in the Ripple XRP community. We have over $1 trillion of damages that have been done in this lawsuit. Okay. So I'm not going to hate. I'm not going to be mad if Ripple ends up settling up this case and just being able to move about their business. That's going to be fine for us. We're gonna be set free, and I cannot wait for that moment. But as an American, we are going to have to continue to take this case further. Like I said, this is so much bigger than XRP for me. This is about saving our country. And the SEC is just one of these three agencies that has been weaponized against the American people while they've propped up foreign entities. And that's what the SEC was doing for the whole last decade. They were allowing all these fraud companies out of China to IPO on our markets, to dump on our retail investors, to get our people to, the money managers put their 401k and retirement accounts into these fraud IPOs out of China, while they propped up coins out of like Ethereum and Bitcoin, which were also ran and centralized within China. It's no longer the case anymore. So for the Bitcoin, Ethereum folks in the crowd, just chill. That's not the case anymore because China banned Bitcoin mining, and you guys know that deal, right? And with the proof of stake, some would actually suggest that Ethereum is even more centralized now, and I think it'll only continue to get more decentralized for both proof of work and Ethereum as well. So, but Bill Hinman said that they were sufficiently decentralized, and we know why. This thing has finally come out. It's all there for us. A lot of people thought that this was going to be a nothing burger. That is absolutely not the case. This is damning, and we're not done. That's the good thing here. Folks, we are not done. We are going to continue applying pressure, and the victory for Ripple XRP community is imminent. I don't know if we're going to settle up this month. We'll see if they fight it till the death in the next year, But nonetheless, the facts and the circumstances around Ripple XRP are completely different from the rest of the space. The only thing that the rest of the space is going to be able to take from this case is the fair notice defense. But why aren't they talking about the Hinman speech? Why aren't they talking about this when it's the perfect ammunition that everybody else in the space needs? Because the whole space was built upon this Ethereum free pass, and it was a Ponzi scheme with the Ethereum protocol at the very bottom and the ERC20 tokens built up from there. Tens of thousands of ERC20 tokens, most of them scams and frauds with no utility, were built upon this Ethereum free pass. And that's why exchanges like Coinbase and Binance aren't talking about this either. This fair notice defense could be used by them, but they profited from the Ethereum free pass. So they've been caught. So, as we say, let all truth be revealed. We've caught them all, and the best is yet to come, folks. This is truly amazing. Feels so great. And just a huge shout out, guys. The work has paid off. Pat yourselves on the back real quick. Enjoy yourselves an adult beverage here today. But then let's get back to work and keep applying pressure because we got to save our country. Okay? God bless all of you guys. I will see you in the next one. Take care.